Ho ho buddies, welcome back to Borderline Games. We are playing Chaos Head today. Last time, we were with Takumi, who was walking down a dark alleyway and was beaten. We thought he was actually going to die. It looked like he was going to... It seemed like we were going to get a bad ending and it was going to tell us to do something else, but we got beaten up really badly. I think a couple of ribs broken. I think he was kicked in the face. And then, who should we see but Kazui Orihara kind of appeared out of nowhere to make sure that we're okay. I don't know whether that means that she was following us or for sinister reasons, or she was just following us, you know, because she was interested in us for some reason. We had a really bad delusion regarding Kazui. Was it last episode? Which was kind of unpleasant. We shouldn't really talk about that. Because, you know, the protagonist is someone that you should really look up to. I don't know how it's managed to make this protagonist so unlikable. Anyway, we also saw Remy interacting with Shogun, which kind of suggests that Remy isn't a good person, or Shogun is a good person, and so is Remy. But if that were the case, Remy would definitely not have said, should I take him out, or should I deal with him? I don't know, there was something that she said that definitely hinted at evilness. She's definitely going over from good to evil on my little table I've got here. But anyway, we're going to find out what Kazui Orihara wants. What do you want, Orihara? So, the transfer student held out something to me. It was my wallet. Why did she have it? My head's still foggy. I looked around. Ugh. Oh yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think it's that she's attacked the three muggers. I think that's what happened right at the end of the last episode. The three DQNs that had attacked me earlier were now lying in a pool of blood. There you go. What the hell? It was like they'd all been one shot by some OP mob. The faces of all three were barely still intact. Were they dead? None of them moved a single muscle. No. Was this the 7th new-gen case? Who the hell would do something like this? Had I? Huh. The transfer student then stood up and beckoned to me. I was completely pale. She alternated between looking at me, who was still very confused, and the three collapsed people. Tears welled up in the corner of her eyes. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and took off running with me in tow, staggering every once in a while. As soon as we reached the main street, the transfer student let go of my hand. We hadn't run very far, but she was already out of breath. We both fell silent. Maybe the transfer student was just as bad as talking as I was. No, that didn't matter right now. What I needed to do first was figure out what the hell had happened. I'd been being harassed by those DQNs, and then they'd picked a fight with me. Then I must have passed out, but how long had I been unconscious? I guess we're going to go red this time. About 5 minutes. What? There it was again. I'd heard it again. Oh, he has this voice in his head that seems to be responding to his thoughts. I thought someone I knew was nearby and was trying to talk to me, but I couldn't see anyone that fit that description. Is it her? Is she talking to me? Damn it. Where were all of these auditory illusions coming from? And why were they all happening today? It's not an illusion at all! Which meant... Startled, I looked up at the sky. Is this voice an attack from Shogun? Is he reading my mind? Shogun! Goon! He's attacking me from a satellite. Ugh! Panicked, I crouched down on the spot, clutching my head. He's gonna kill me. This time he's gonna kill me for sure. He has to be angry at me for not listening to him back at O-Front, and now he's doing this to punish me. What do I do? Where can I go that'll protect me from him? With those thoughts racing through my mind, I was thrown into a desperate frenzy. There's nowhere to run. An invisible attack from space, aimed at me with pinpoint accuracy. Its weaponry could surely pierce through anything to get to me. No matter how strong the shelter, there's nowhere in Japan that I can run to. Nowhere I can hide. It's over. It's all over for me. Is Kosupi really that scary? What even is a Kosupi? Are you trying to throw me off guard with that Mo voice of yours? Why? Why are you willing to go so far just to hunt me down? And you? Kosupi isn't hunting Nishijiro-kun downsies. What are you going to do to me? Make my head explode, dissolve my brain into a pile of goo? Please. Please, no. I don't want to die. I was cowering on the floor in fear, and then I felt someone poke me in the shoulder. I nervously looked up and saw that the transfer student was still there. When she'd poked me, she tried to mumble something, but hadn't ended up saying anything, so instead of speaking, she decided to timidly raise her hand. Kosupi is Kosupi. Huh? Kosupi is Kosupi! Oh, she's pissed off. And Kosupi is not transfer student neither sees. Her name is Arahara Kozu. Or Kozui? Arahara Kozui. I very faintly remembered hearing that name from Mizumi-kun a long time ago. Kozui. Kozui. Kosupi. No. Does this mean that this voice I'm hearing is one that you're sending to my head? The transfer student nodded her head emphatically. Telepathy. Kosupi doesn't really get how any of it works. But yes, Kosupi can telepathy. That's ridiculous. This voice is her. Nishijiro-kun, are you okay, Z's? The transfer student, her head still hanging downward, glanced up at me and pointed at my face. Her fingertip was trembling. Your nose is gonna dwibble. I touched my hand to my face. The bottom of my nose was slimy. My nose was bleeding. The transfer student offered me a tissue. I took it from her and wiped away the blood, but I was still feeling very uneasy. The transfer student is Kosupi. Oh, Kosupi, righty? Kosupi isn't moving her mouth. She isn't talking, so why can I hear her voice? Is this going to turn out to just be some big delusion? It's the voice of Kosupi's art. Enough with that obnoxious speaking style. I can't stand it when people do that in real life. Phew. Sorry. Wait, you can hear my inner voice too? Well, isn't that just the same as your thoughts? Why wouldn't you be able to hear that? Yep, Kosupi can hear it. Why don't you just talk to me normally? Huh. 'Cause it's embarrassing. Oh. I know how you feel. I'm like that too. When I said that, she scurried around me like a chipmunk, glanced at me, then started walking toward the station by herself. Kosupi thinks that Kosupi and Nishijiro-kun should go now. Why? Confused, I followed her. As I walked, I noticed something. There was a stabbing pain in my side, The pain throbbed with every step I took, so I was forced to stop. I gripped my side and took a breath. There were people everywhere. I hated Shibuya with a burning passion. It felt like everyone I passed by was laughing at me. It felt like everyone was watching me. It felt like everyone knew my face. Don't look at me. Don't laugh at me. I want to find somewhere I can get away from it all. I need a place to rest.
Okay, Z's. There's a really nice place around here. Just follow Kozupi.
The energy in Kozupi's voice now is a stark contrast to the few times we saw each other at school before. And even though she doesn't talk in real life, her inner voice has, energy to spare, to say the least.
Hey, okay, right now, Kozupi's gonna think like a girl who's annoyed. Ooh, poor.
Being able to talk to her in my head is convenient, but at the same time it's kind of annoying. Come to think of it, I'm accepting this stuff pretty easy despite the fact that I'm not sure how the hell it actually works. I'm pretty sure you've got concussion after that incident in the alley. Is this really a genuine real-life psychic power?
It's just like Kozupi thought. Kozupi really is creepy, isn't she? Stuff like this, it's not normal.
I'm not bothered by the fact that you're not normal, it's just that I've met all kind of weirdos recently. But you, Kozupi, you talk kind of funny, sure, but you're not scary and you're not Dempa tier. If anything, I prefer this.
Oh, wowsies! Kozupi's feeling really, really happy now.
As we walked, Kozupi suddenly burst into tears. Startled, I hurriedly gave her back the tissue. After bowing to me way more times than she needed to, she took the tissue and wiped the tears from her eyes. Back to what I was saying earlier. It feels really weird, and also makes me feel pretty uncomfortable when people can hear everything I'm thinking. That's my honest opinion about it.
Kozupi sees. Kozupi-ish sorry. But it's not because Kozupi wants to. Kozupi can hear other people. Even if Kozupi doesn't want to. Oh no.
Is that so?
It's so.
Well, either way, I know you don't want to be told that by an otaku freak like me. I was right, a disgusting guy like me really is worthless.
That's not even one teensy bit true.
Just as I was about to revert to my depressed state, Kozupi shouted at me, with her inner voice.
Not allowed! You're not allowed to say something like that anymore. It's just way too sad.
Tears started to trickle down her face and once again. Why are you crying? Do you feel sorry for me? If so, there's no reason to. I mean, look at me. I'm so utterly delusional. I create personalities inside my head and treat them like they're actual real people. For example, there's Rimi.
Huh? Do you mean Sakahata-san? Sakahata-san?
You know her?
Yeah, she's Kozupi's classmate. And Nishijoku-kun's girlfriend.
Like hell she is.
She's not. But Kozupi really thought that she really was.
Kozupi knows who Rimi is, which means Rimi is real. Or that this person is also not real. She isn't just a delusion. She isn't someone I made up in my head. Rimi really is real. I see. I'm so happy. But if that's really true, then why hasn't she contacted me a single time? Maybe the O-Front incident really did make her fall out of love with me.
On the day after the big earthquake, Sakahata-san left school early. She looked super-de-duper pale. After that, Sakahata-san stopped coming to school at all. maybe something sad happened to her family. Maybe?
Is that so? It felt like I'd been saved. Now that I knew that Remy hadn't abandoned me, I genuinely felt like I was about to burst into tears. If it's really true, if Remy really isn't a delusion, then I actually have a reason to go to school. To see Remy again. So until I see her once again, I'll try my hardest to...
Be careful.
Huh?
Nishizo-kun, Kozupi didn't tell you because Kozupi thought you were going out with Sakahata-san, but... Nishizo-has got to be careful around Sakahata-san.
What do you mean?
Nishizo-kun doesn't really know Sakahata-san.
Again, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't really know her? What do you mean because of the crucifixion? Oh, what? Do you mean because of the crucifixion? Or is it that, even though I'm supposed to have been classmates with her since first year, all my memories of her are missing? It's true that Remy still is a bit of a mystery to me. But she saved me over and over again, whenever I'm scared. She tells me that she'll stay by my side. She's not my enemy.
Phew.
For some reason, Kozupi looked a bit unstable.
When you think that much stuff all at once like that, Kozupi can't keep up.
Sorry. This is just pretty new to me. Whenever I have a conversation with someone, I always end up not being able to say even 20% of the stuff I'm thinking before it ends. When it comes to this mental stuff, I guess I just can't help but talk too much because I think too much. I guess that kind of applies to you too. I never would have expected you to talk so much inside your head, that is.
It kind of only barely feels like I'm talking. Kozupi just thinks, and then it all comes flowing in. Kozupi just thinks that someone, like, beep beep, and then someone just goes bang boom back at me. If you're not used to it, then your thoughts and other person's thoughts get all fumbled jumbled up and it's like, yeah? And that's how Kozupi thinks about it.
In Japanese, please. I can kind of understand what you're going for, though. I think you're trying to say that you don't have the real subtlety or nuance of actual conversation. There's nothing like, for example, looking at the other people's expression and then deciding that you're no longer able to bring yourself to say what you wanted to say because of it. If people's thoughts just leaked out wildly, then you'd no longer be able to read the room. The transmission isn't one way, but it isn't two-way either. It's like having to pick one arrow out of an avalanche of other arrows, all of which were flying in different directions, all while somehow ignoring all the other ones that you didn't need. You have to tune out the excess noise.
Which is why it feels so comfy and like you're much closer to someone. But it's a lot more easier to get hurt too.
For a moment, Kozupi's expression clouded a bit, and not long after, a tearful smile arose on her face.
It's Nishizo-kun's first time and all, but you're already super duper good at it. Your beep beep beeps match up really nice with Kozupi's.
Beep beep beeps. Oh, beep beep beeps. Are you trying to say we're on the same wavelength?
Yeah, wavelengths.
Well, I guess it's probably because I do something similar with Serotan pretty often.
Ah, but back then Nishizo-kun was super scary, OP.
Back then?
This morning, in the classroom.
Oh god. That reminds me, I think I had a really stupid delusion this morning.
That's why Kozupi went, "Foo yeah!" And then Kozupi just ended up talking to you all of a sudden. Though, to be on a nest, Kozupi...
Oh, to be honest.
To be on a nest, Kozupi decided that Kozupi would let a little people as possible know about Kozupi's power.
Wait, you don't understand. Back then I was just really desperate and, well, at the end of the day it was just a delusion. Who am I kidding? You probably hate me.
Kozapi's sure that if Nishijou-kun really did do that to Kozapi, Kozapi would have killed him right then and there.
Huh? She said such a disturbing thing so innocently. The contrast between the two extremes sent a chill down my spine. Remaining silent while still communicating in our heads, the two of us passed through Sentagai and came out on Inakashira Dori. From an outsider's perspective, did the two of us look like a brand new couple, walking in silence without even looking at each other? Kozapi let out a crazy loud gasp next to me. Her eyes went wide and she looked up at me.
A couple?
No, it was just a random thought. A random thought.
Phew, Kozapi was about to go foo-ya all over againsies. I thought Nishijou-kun had made a lovey-dovey confession to Kozapi.
Sorry. I knew it. It really does suck trying to think when someone's listening to every thought you have. Whenever I was talking to Kozapi, it'd probably be better for my overall health if I avoided any unnecessary delusions as much as possible.
So, Kozapi wants to ask Nishijou-kun something. It's about last week when Nishijou-kun was on TV.
Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
That's just an assumption, Upu. Kozapi was down below back when it happened.
Down below?
At Scramble Crossing, in front of Hashiko's ticket gate. Kozapi was just happening to pass by. Back then, Kozapi could hear it the whole time. Kozapi could hear Nishijou-kun's voice. Stuff like, I want to save Nanami-chan, and I've got to save her. Kozapi heard it all.
Did my inner voice really reach that far? It's a surprisingly long way from the roof of O-Front to the ticket gate of the station.
Yeah, and that alone shows how strong Nishijou-kun's feelings were back then.
Huh, I guess Kozapi really did understand. I didn't cause such an uproar because I was planning to show off my ESP.
Uh-huh. That's why Nishijou-kun doesn't not have worth. Huh? Doesn't not.
But in the end, it was all pointless. I put my own life before Nanami's, and at the very last second, I escaped. Kozapi stopped before the entrance to Roft, and then, while pointing at the entrance, she looked at me. This must have been where she wanted to take me. I didn't think there would be a place to rest inside Roft. It was a small, cramped spot that was filled to the brim with customers. My legs were unconsciously shaking. The cheers and shouts I'd heard that night at Scramble Crossing resounded inside my head. I don't want to go to places with lots of people. Once I go inside there, there'll be nowhere to run.
It'll be okay, Z's, Nishijou-kun.
In spite of how afraid I was, Kozapi marched on ahead, ignoring me. I had no choice but to follow her as fast as my legs could take me, trying my best not to look at my surroundings. As we got on the escalator, Kozapi looked back at me, standing behind her. She was standing one step higher than me, putting us at about equal height.
Nanami-chan was saved, wasn't she? Well, that was all thanks to Nishijou-kun, giving it everything Nishijou-kun had.
My power isn't what saved her. I might as well have done nothing at all.
Nishijou-kun was reaching out real far on the rooftop, right? What were you reaching for? Were you trying to jump and fly away with a nyum?
No, I was trying to get the sword. It was a delusional sword, and it blended right into the scenery I saw from the rooftop.
A D-sword?
A D-sword. I was told that I could reach out and grab it, but I couldn't. How do you... I shouted that out loud without thinking. A couple passers by on an escalator gave me an irritated look, and I frantically slapped my hand over my mouth. Kozapi, how do you know what a D-sword is?
'Cause Kozapi has one too!
What? As soon as we got off the escalator on the 5th floor, Kozui casually raised her right hand above her head. It was like she was trying to shade herself from the radiant glare of the sun, using her hand. As if it were running along her hand, light suddenly appeared in the air. No, it wasn't light, it was closer to lines. If I were to describe it, it'd be similar to wireframe. Countless rays of light intersected in the seemingly empty space before eventually forming a shape akin to that of a snowboard. Wow, it's a big sword. And then several streaks of blue light, more fiercely brilliant than any of the wireframe lines, ran across the entirety of it. Kozapi then clasped her open hand. Oh my god. Immediately following this, what had originally been wireframe, appearing as though a texture had been applied to it, transformed into a massive, solid, seemingly cold to the touch, metal plank. A D-sword! Red again, I guess? The shape was far too different from the ones Sina and Ayase possessed, and yet even so, the aura about its body was the exact same. It was too sinister to be called a board. It was too unaffected to be called a sword. It possessed a pure, unadulterated savagery, one which intermingled with its destructive nobility. She held it in the air with incredible ease. Why does Kozapi have a D-sword?
That's because Kozapi!
With an innocent smile still on her face, Kozapi looked back at me.
Is one of Shogun-chan's hench peoples!
Oh my god. And the gigantic snowboard-esque sword flashed, as if cutting the air itself to ribbons. Huh? I had no idea what had just happened. Before I could even react, it was all over. Kozapi's small body embraced the D-sword. And clinging to that sword was a sticky substance. Blood.
Bye-bye, Takumi-chan!
And in that very moment, my body had been permanently disfigured. I nearly collapsed, so I tried to step forward with my right leg to stop myself. But my leg wouldn't move. The sensation in my lower body had disappeared. I felt a blistering heat around my waist. Huh? I fell forward. I couldn't move my body. Confused as could be, using only my hands, I pushed myself slightly upward and looked toward my body. Blood was gushing out from my side. Slimy, protruding intestines glistened in the light. Pink flesh clung to the exposed white bones. Uh-oh. Looks like we'd been cut in half. It was a body that had been bored out. One that couldn't be mine. This can't be real. Unable to believe what I was seeing, I looked up at Kozapi.
Up you!
Staring at me with nothing but raw disdain in her eyes. Kozapi took the D-sword dripping with my blood. And then, almost as if she wanted me to watch, she took her adorable tongue and slowly licked away the crimson. Yeah. It's alright, that was all fake. Ugh. My delusion made me feel really sick. But that didn't mean that the delusion wouldn't become reality. Assuming the worst, I distanced myself a little from Kozapi, preparing myself to bolt at any time. Completely oblivious to what I was feeling, Kozapi waltzed around the store like she owned the place, her footsteps light and bouncy. She didn't even attempt to try and hide her sword from the people around her, acting as if it were the most normal thing in the world. It's been the same with Sina. She'd also been lugging around a gigantic sword in the middle of Shibuya with no regard to the people around her. Kozupi was way too calm. Even if Kozupi didn't, say, work for Shogun, she still was definitely crazy. Should you be thinking this? And what I remembered was the smell. The smell of blood. I remembered the scene of the DQNs lying down in a pool of blood.
People who do horrible things like that deserve to die. Huh.
So, they really were dead?
Nope. Even though those worthless cocky roaches had no reason to live, they're still alive.
Cocky roaches?
Cockroaches. Kozupi really did want to kill them.
I could feel pretty clearly where Kozupi's mind was when she said that. There was not a trace of malice within her. She just wanted to take revenge on the bad people who had wronged her. And I didn't think there was anything inherently wrong with that.
Lately, Shibuya's been getting a lot more dangerous. Like yesterday, some cocky roaches tried to get me, so Kozupi crash bang beat them up.
This girl honestly seems pretty twisted, albeit in a different way than me.
Nishijo-kun, over here!
Kozupi began to walk, her gigantic D-sword still in hand. She was pretty short, and her arms were really thin. She didn't look like she could even lift a feather, and yet despite all these things, she didn't show any signs of her sword weighing her down. In fact, her steps were light and springy. I covered my eyes again and again each time the tip of the sword nearly collided with passing customers or products on display. Miraculously, though, it didn't end up hitting anything. We then arrived at a staircase. It was dimly lit, and unlike the rest of the floor, there was no sign of anyone around. No one even approached the area. I didn't expect to find such a desolate spot inside Roft, a ridiculously popular store, especially since it was only a 5-minute walk from Shibuya Station.
It's not just Roft, actually. The stairs of a lot of stores barely ever have any people near them, ever.
You only moved here a couple of weeks ago, and I've been living here for almost 2 years. How exactly did you know about this? But I didn't.
Kozupi's been walking around Shibuya every day since Kozupi came to Tokyo. That's how Kozupi found it. It's a real, relaxing West place.
Kozupi, seemingly in a good mood, sat down on the steps. She then casually laid her D-sword down on the floor. I had a pain in my side that was becoming unbearable, so I decided to take a break as well for the time being.
So, Nishijo-kun, whenever you look at the scenery or some kind of pattern, do you ever see other stuff? Stuff like elephants, rabbits, little lions. Kozupi thinks the thing that made her go the most whoa was when she saw a big salamander.
What in the world are you talking about?
Kozupi's talking about D-swords. Upper. Like, when you look at a pattern or some scenery, it can look like there's a bunch of different shapes, like maybe little animals and stuff.
Oh, you mean that? Yeah, I've experienced that before. When I was looking from the perspective of the O-front rooftop, I saw something. I saw a D-sword blending into the scenery.
Yep! Ding dong! The first time Kozupi saw Kozupi's sword was back when Ham Pom Pom died.
Ham Pom Pom?
A small hamster Kozupi took care of back in middle school. So, how it went is, Kozupi went down to the river to make a grave for Ham Pom Pom. But when Kozupi got there, she realised Kozupi forgot her shovel, so she couldn't make a grave for Ham Pom Pom. So Kozopy started crying, wow, really hard. This Kozopy's quite character. And then Kozopy saw the shape of this sword in the sky. After that, Kozopy started seeing it in all kinds of places. How did you actually get your hands on it? In the end, I found my sword, but I couldn't take it. No matter how hard I tried to reach for it, I couldn't grab hold of it. Well, Kozopy just wished for it. You wished for it? Like, what? That you could have it? But if that's what you did, then I did the same thing. Stopping my thoughts in its tracks, Kozopy looked up at me and shook her head faintly. Nope. What Kozopy wished for was... Kozopy wants to kill. Huh? Her inner voice echoed clearly in my head. I hadn't misheard her. She'd said it very clearly. Kozopy wished to kill, and she'd been beaming as she said it. The stairs leading up from... Oh, hang on. That's, yeah, that's fine. Just getting the wrong voice for the wrong dialogue. The stairs leading up from the 5th floor to the 6th were very quiet, with only the faintest background music leaking in from the restaurant. Neither one of us said a word. The sound of someone breathing entered my ears. Was it hers? No, it was my own. A staircase where no one would ever approach. A blind spot in the heart of Shibuya, a pocket of air. I swallowed back my saliva in an attempt to wet my increasingly dry throat. When Kozopy wished that, Kozopy looked up at the sky and the sword was there again. But, until right then, Kozopy didn't think it was a sword. Kozopy just thought of it as something like, that went, sheen! And then, boom! Kozopy thought, can Kozopy kill with that? And then she reached out for it without even doing any thinking. And then, Kozopy grabbed it. And then what happened? What did you do after that? Kozopy tried to kill with it, but Kozopy couldn't. It took Kozopy trying with everything she had just to half kill him. This girl, it's like she's broken. Huh, Kozopy's not broken. Does Kozopy look broken? Kozopy's rock solid, and she's got a sword right here. The way she gazed lovingly at the sword resting beside her, I couldn't tell that she had absolute faith in it. I don't know, I could tell. I could tell that she had absolute faith in it, something her heart told me as well. Would I have to become this broken in order to get my hands on a D-sword? Was I still not broken to begin with? Wow. Alright. New information. A whole bunch of lore that's just been dropped. We'll find out about that and much more next time on Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I will see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.